Hey, Steelers Nation. We're back with an exclusive video packed with the latest updates on our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. This way, you'll never miss any exclusive updates or exciting Steelers news. The atmosphere around Pittsburgh has shifted into something tense, electric, and almost uncomfortable after a wave of whispers began spreading through circles connected to the Steelers. According to a rumor that exploded out of nowhere, Mike Tomlin, the longtime pillar of stability in the franchise, may have said something about the team's owner that nobody else ever had the courage to express out loud. Not aggressive, not disrespectful, but shockingly direct. People claiming to be close to the situation insist that Tomlin's message wasn't about challenging the authority of ownership, but rather about pushing for a leadership style that actually listens to the players and understands the reality of the modern locker room. That alone already feels like a tremor in the organization. But the idea that such a comment came from Tomlin, a coach famous for tight-lipped discipline and emotional control, sent shockwaves through the entire building. The rumor suggests that he spoke with urgency, not anger, almost as if he felt a responsibility to finally say something others have been avoiding for years. And if there's one thing the league knows, it's that Tomlin doesn't waste words. When he speaks, it's because he believes something important is at stake. What magnified the entire situation wasn't just what Tomlin may have said, but how players, media personalities, and insiders reacted the moment the rumor surfaced. Suddenly, veterans began quietly discussing what it would mean if their head coach truly felt the need to challenge the direction of the franchise. Younger players reportedly saw the whole story as a signal that their coach is fighting for them, fighting for a leadership model that prioritizes performance, communication, and respect for the human side of the sport. The idea that Tomlin might be the one pushing for change made people realize something. If the most consistent coach in the league feels the need to speak up, then the disconnect between leadership and locker room might be deeper than it looked. Tomlin has always been the man who managed chaos when nobody else could, keeping the Steelers functional even in their most turbulent stretches. But for him to supposedly question whether the organization is truly supporting its players suggests he's no longer willing to patch over cracks that should have been addressed long ago. The rumor didn't create a crisis. It revealed one that may have been simmering quietly underneath the surface for years. The situation began gaining even more steam because it touched on a long-standing suspicion among fans and analysts that Pittsburgh's leadership is sometimes too attached to tradition, too resistant to change, too slow to adapt to the new rhythm of the league. Tomlin allegedly pointed out that decisions made at the top directly shape the chemistry of the team, the mental state of the players, and the culture inside the building. That line alone became the centerpiece of the rumor. Some believe he was referring to strategic decisions that haven't aligned with what players actually need to compete at the highest level. Others think he was simply calling for modernization, urging ownership to evolve rather than hold onto outdated systems out of loyalty to the past. The most interesting part is how the rumor grew into a full-blown debate within league circles. It wasn't about whether Tomlin was right or wrong. It was about whether Pittsburgh was finally ready to admit that the NFL has changed and that staying stuck in old ways might be holding the team back. If Tomlin truly voiced those concerns, he wasn't starting a fight. He was sounding an alarm. What made the whisper even more intriguing was the tone Tomlin supposedly used. Not bitter, not emotional, not dramatic, just firm, measured, and unavoidable. Sources claim he expressed that leadership needs to move beyond treating certain issues as untouchable subjects. Decisions regarding player development, personnel priorities, and long-term planning can't be based solely on tradition or nostalgia. And for Tomlin to deliver a message like that, even privately, means the pressure inside the building has reached a point he can no longer ignore. Analysts who have followed him for years understand that he is a leader who protects his locker room at all costs. So if he took that protective instinct and redirected it upward toward the top of the organization, then he clearly believes the team is at risk of falling behind. As the rumor spread, fans reacted with a mix of shock and understanding. Many quietly agreed that the Steelers have felt stuck, operating like a franchise from another era while the league grows more dynamic every year. And that's why Tomlin's supposed comments resonated so strongly. They felt like the truth many were afraid to say. Former players then began chiming in indirectly, commenting on how Tomlin has always been the kind of coach who stands up for his roster, who listens before he dictates, who values the human element of football as much as the strategic one. Some said publicly that if Tomlin truly spoke up, it was probably because he felt something critical was slipping. The narrative became less about conflict and more about a coach desperately trying to keep the culture alive. People close to him insist that he's not frustrated with ownership personally, but rather with the limitations placed on his ability to push the team forward. When a head coach begins referencing leadership above him, even in rumors, it signals that he wants change before problems become irreversible. Fans and analysts immediately latched onto that interpretation. They argued that Pittsburgh has always valued stability, but stability without evolution eventually becomes stagnation. Tomlin might simply be trying to prevent that from happening. And perhaps this rumor, whether accurate or exaggerated, is giving the organization the nudge it's been avoiding for too long. The final blow that pushed the rumor into national discussion was the suggestion that Tomlin isn't trying to spark drama. He's trying to save the team from an internal decline that nobody wants to admit. According to those spreading the story, he was clear that leadership must reconsider how their decisions shape the emotional and psychological state of the players. You can't expect excellence if the environment doesn't support excellence. That idea resonated deeply with both fans and former players. It led many to wonder whether the Steelers have inadvertently drifted away from the values that once made them unbeatable: unity, clarity, and unshakable leadership. Tomlin allegedly urged the organization to look inward, not outward, to find the cause of recent frustrations. And if he really said that, then the implications are massive. It means the coach who has never once lost a locker room now sees structural issues forming around him that could threaten everything he's built. The rumors sparked debate, concern, and curiosity, but above all, it sparked a sense of urgency, something Pittsburgh hasn't felt in years. As the rumor kept growing, insiders began reporting that the locker room reacted in ways nobody expected. Younger players felt energized, interpreting Tomlin's supposed remarks as a sign that their coach sees them, understands them, and wants ownership to value their voices. Veteran players, on the other hand, reportedly processed the rumor more cautiously, seeing it as something deeper, a sign that Tomlin might be exhausted from carrying burdens that should belong to the very top of the franchise. Neither reaction created division. Instead, it created reflection. It made everyone think about whether the franchise's identity has drifted away from the needs of the modern NFL. Tomlin speaking up, even if only through whispers, made players realize that he's still fighting for them in ways they rarely see. The rumor became bigger not because of shock value, but because of how much sense it made. This felt less like rebellion and more like someone finally speaking truth wrapped in concern, not conflict. The media then grabbed hold of a new question. What does this mean for the future of the franchise? Analysts have been saying for years that the Steelers' long-held traditions, while admirable, sometimes act as chains preventing bold decisions. The rumor made people wonder whether ownership has been too rigid, too cautious, too unwilling to adapt. If Tomlin truly believes leadership needs to think more about the players, then he's indirectly calling for a modern approach. One where communication flows both ways, where the front office supports innovation, and where player development becomes the center of decision-making. The rumor almost felt like a manifesto calling for evolution. It wasn't about disrespecting the past, but about updating the future. Fans began speculating whether the organization could take such a message seriously or whether they'd dismiss it as noise. And yet, the silent response from the franchise spoke louder than any denial could. Nobody dismissed it. Nobody fought it. The silence became part of the story. What grew even more intriguing was the absolute lack of public reaction from Tomlin. Not a confirmation, not a denial, not even a vague comment to soften the chatter. And that silence created a new narrative, Perhaps Tomlin is letting the rumor do the work for him. Some insiders believe he's intentionally staying quiet, allowing everyone else, fans, analysts, former players, to keep pressuring the organization without him having to say a word. If that's true, it's a strategic masterpiece. It forces leadership to confront the situation from all angles while Tomlin protects his image as a united, disciplined leader. His refusal to engage directly suggests he knows the conversation needed to happen and that the rumor simply gave people permission to start it. The quiet from his side became a statement of its own, and the entire league noticed. Another branch of the rumor suggested that Tomlin might be pushing for greater influence, not out of ego, but out of necessity. After years of shouldering problems he didn't create, perhaps he wants a larger voice in decisions that affect his roster and staff. Not a takeover, just more authority where it matters most. Some insiders argue that Pittsburgh's traditional structure may no longer fit the demands of modern football. Tomlin has delivered stability for nearly 2 decades, something incredibly rare in today's NFL. And a coach with his longevity may feel that he has earned the right to be heard at a deeper level within the organization. If this rumor holds any truth, then Pittsburgh may be approaching a turning point. The franchise can either evolve its leadership model or risk losing the strategic advantage of having one of the strongest voices in the league at the helm. There's also speculation that the entire situation is less about power and more about emotional atmosphere inside the building. Analysts who understand locker room psychology believe Tomlin could be sounding the alarm that the team's resilience is thinning. He may be seeing signs of emotional fatigue among his players, something that can't be fixed by motivation alone. If he expressed that leadership needs to prioritize player well-being, then he was likely pointing to issues deeper than football, issues about communication, pressure, and human connection. Players reportedly receive this as a sign of loyalty, reinforcing the belief that Tomlin is someone who will stand between them and anything that threatens the unity of the team. This rumor, instead of weakening him, made his bond with the roster even stronger. It made players feel like their head coach is fighting for a future where they're valued beyond statistics and contracts. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. And so the rumor, whether entirely true or partly exaggerated, has transformed into a larger reflection about the franchise's identity. It forced fans and analysts to ask the one question nobody wanted to face. Has Pittsburgh allowed tradition to overshadow growth? Tomlin has represented consistency, discipline, and leadership for years, and if he truly felt the need to challenge the direction of the organization, then something real is happening behind closed doors. The silence around the rumor, the reactions from former players, the sudden debates among insiders, all of it suggests that Pittsburgh is standing at a crossroads. Not a crisis, not a collapse, but a moment where the future is being shaped quietly and carefully. The whispered comment attributed to Tomlin became the spark for something bigger, a conversation about evolution, leadership, and the responsibility to adapt before it's too late. Whether the franchise listens to this wake-up call or lets it fade into just another rumor may define the next chapter of Steelers history. Even members of the organization who rarely appear in the spotlight have found themselves caught up in the excitement. Staff members, from equipment managers to administrative workers, are reportedly talking about subtle moments that suggest Rodgers is genuinely embracing every layer of the franchise. Some say he's been taking extra time to learn the names of employees who usually go unnoticed by public figures, creating an atmosphere of connection that feels refreshing and unexpected. There's a rumor that he shared a long conversation with a longtime staffer about what the Steelers represent culturally, listening with real interest instead of treating it like a formality. Others claim that Rodgers has been asking about old traditions, small rituals, and behind-the-scenes details that symbolize the heart of the organization. These stories might be exaggerated. That's how rumors work, but they all point toward one idea. Rodgers isn't acting like a temporary guest. He's behaving like someone who wants to understand the soul of the franchise. And that small detail, whether fully true or partially embellished, has sparked even more speculation about how deeply invested he might be in this new chapter. Outside the facility, the city itself has become part of the conversation. Locals are sharing stories about unexpected sightings. Rodgers grabbing coffee in spots frequented by longtime residents, strolling through neighborhoods with an easy confidence, or engaging in small conversations that catch people by surprise. Some rumors suggest he's been exploring areas tied to the city's football culture, taking in the environment as if trying to absorb everything that makes Pittsburgh unique. According to fans who claim to have crossed paths with him, he appears relaxed, approachable, and even curious, asking questions about landmarks, neighborhoods, and community traditions. Whether these encounters happened exactly as described or grew through retellings, they've added a layer of charm to the growing narrative. It paints Rodgers not just as a quarterback entering a new team, but as someone intentionally connecting with the community that surrounds it. And as these stories spread, the excitement only grows, blending reality and speculation into a rumor-filled atmosphere that keeps the entire city buzzing with anticipation. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.